fanatic. Welcome to the Masked Fanatic. And here I am once again in the attic where we talk about cool and interesting old Halloween masks. Now, tonight, let's go back in time to say 1994. Go ahead, say it. No, never mind, you can't say it. 1994 was the year that a movie called Mary Shelley's Frankenstein came out. And at the time, everybody thought it was going to be a huge hit. It was going to be a big, influential pop culture phenomenon and a big game changer and the Star Wars of Frankenstein movies. And, well, now that it's been more than a weekend since it was released, it's easy to look back and see that that wasn't the case. It wasn't really that big of a hit. It had a lot of good work in it, but it was kind of boring and had some dumb parts. And, well, I think one of the problems was even though they got a first-class actor, Robert De Niro, now you have to have respect for Robert De Niro, even though they got him to play the Frankenstein monster in the movie, he wasn't really right for the part, I guess you'd say. But, nonetheless, it was felt that this movie was going to be a big hit, and I guess the people at the studio felt that the following Halloween, people all over the planet were going to want to dress up as a bald guy with some stitches on his face, which was pretty much all the Frankenstein monster was in the movie Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, which, by the way, despite the title, is not entirely faithful to the novel Frankenstein as conceived and written by Mary Shelley. That's a little bit misleading. It's got a lot of important elements of the novel in it, including many which had traditionally been left out of a lot of movies and other retellings, but it makes up some of its own stuff and puts in there too. So it's kind of like one of the Hammer Frankenstein spin-offs or something, only you don't get Peter Cushing, but you do get Robert De Niro. Unfortunately, his makeup is the least imaginative Frankenstein monster ever. He doesn't really inspire fear the way a really monstery looking monster. You know, when you talk about the universal Frankenstein, you've got the green face and the square head and the neck electrodes and bolts and scars, and he's really creepy and has the weird brow. Now that might scare people, but a guy with some stitches on his face and a shaved head kind of looks like a guy who's been in a traffic accident, or maybe a boxer after a really bad tag team match of some sort. But it's not really scary, and I think the only other monster that looked like the De Niro one had come before, that is its nearest antecedent, would have been the one in Frankenstein 80, which was an Italian movie that also had the monster being a guy in a long dark coat, a bald head, some stitches there. But anyway, Cinema Secrets came out with this mask in the 1994-95 Halloween season of Robert De Niro as what was called the Creature rather than the Monster, which is kind of weird because among horror fans, if you say the Creature, people tend to think you're talking about the creature from the Black Lagoon. This isn't him. This is Robert De Niro. Now, I've just got done ragging on the makeup design in as much as I did not feel it was monstrous enough to get the job done. So why am I recommending this mask that they came out with? Well, it does have a few interesting things about it. The greatest of which is that it was sculpted for Cinema Secrets by none other than Henry Alvarez, one of the most talented and all-around best, nicest, coolest guys I think who was ever working in the monster-making industry. And one nice thing about having Henry sculpt it is that it looks just like Robert De Niro in the makeup. You know, a lot of times masks don't really capture the person. They don't look like the actor. They look like the monster, but they don't look like the actor. In other words, sometimes Freddy Krueger masks look like Freddy, but they don't look like Robert Englund. Or Dracula masks look like Dracula, but they don't look like Bela Lugosi. Or Frankenstein masks look like Frankenstein, but they don't look like Boris Karloff. You see where I'm going. This actually looked like Robert De Niro in the makeup. Now, this came out right around the time of the movie, the 94-95 season, and there were several versions. In addition to this, which was the standard kind of El Cheapo version, okay, there was also a more deluxe model that had a little bit more latex on it, a little bit better paint job, and had some stuck-on stubble, some glued-on hair stubble and eyebrows. And then there was even the full-body super deluxe prop that had the whole upper torso, the whole upper body, like clear down to below his waist, complete with detailing of wonderfully, beautifully sculpted sutures and stitches and all this creepy surgical detail going on, put there by the immortal Henry Alvarez, and very wonderfully done. Now you could get just the chest piece, so that if you wanted to wear a costume with the coat open, you could have a rubber chest on there that would look like it was sewed up, kind of like an autopsy, right? Like an autopsy subject. Yeah, he says that's pretty much what it looked like. Or you could get this foam-filled prop, which you could put a coat on it, and it even came with arms, and you could pretty much build a full life-size figure. I don't believe it had any legs. I don't think they ever did pants. The coat just came all the way down to the floor, and he had just a metal pole on a base underneath there going up to his body, and these wonderful hands. Now the head was sculpted by Henry, but the hands were sculpted by one of Henry's also equally talented and wonderfully nice, another wonderful guy, the late and beloved Dwight Shundell. And Dwight sculpted these wonderful hands to go with Henry's DeNiro Frankenstein mask, you see. And the hands were available in this version like you see here, which is just a straight up pair of hands that you'd wear like gloves, and you know, give you these big powerful looking hands. And if anybody could see up your sleeve a little, they'd see you had the stitches going on there. And there was also the full arm version, which came about up to yeah, not quite to where it met the shoulder of the body part, but close. Came way up past the elbow. The arm version, which is how they were sculpted, the arms were foam filled and sold as part of the full body figure, which I have divulged the details of previously, which consisted of the foam filled upper body, the coat, and you also got the arms. See, and you'd put that all together and you'd have a life-size Robert De Niro Frankenstein creature, or monster if you prefer, standing in your home. And well, now if you find one of these today, and by the way, side note here, these are great Frankenstein hands, and they're great for a lot of other monsters. We've used them at Horror Hotel for other characters, as long as the sleeve of the character's costume covers up the stitches. You've got a good hand there for any big guy kind of character. And if you have other Frankensteins, I would also recommend these as far as painting them differently and using them with different masks, different versions of Frankenstein. These are good all-purpose Frankenstein hands, as well as being great for the De Niro piece. Now, the one thing you might be disappointed with if you do find one of these today on eBay or some such is some of the cheaper versions, like this one, were really painted pretty badly, and Cinema Secrets probably should have been ashamed of themselves for the way some of these looked when they got out of the factory with barely any paint on them at all. And you're saying, well, that looks good right there, Dr. Lady, or you would be saying it. You're saying, that looks pretty good right there. What do you mean? What's wrong with it? Well, now, don't get mad at me, but I did cheat a little. This one has been given a quick, partial, simple makeover by me. Only a little. I did not do a full repaint. No. I only added a little bit of shading to what was already there. And now this is pretty lame. You gotta admit, this is pretty lame right here. See these big open stitches? The big open sutures with the big bloody... Yeah, the paint didn't even go all the way to the back of the head. The back was totally unpainted with regard to the big bloody cuts. So like the blood just stopped about here, and then all these back ones weren't even... That's kind of cheap, don't you think? Sure you do. But it's still a beautiful sculpture. This sold for around 40 bucks back at the time. Today, I have no idea what you might pay for one. Maybe 40 bucks, maybe 400, I don't know. But depends on the shape it's in and how good or badly it's painted and how badly you want it. But this again being the El Cheapo version, there was a nicer one that had glued on eyebrows, and then there was the full body piece. But an interesting piece of monster film history, I think. And despite the fact it does look a bit like a mad ball, I think it's still an interesting piece and a beautifully sculpted, worthy addition to your Frankenstein collection. So look for the Cinema Secrets Robert De Niro Frankenstein monster. Now, finally, to get around to the reason I really came up here, which is to cut you loose from all that duct tape you're wrapped in. Honestly, I don't know how you get yourself into these wacky predicaments in the first place, especially in someone else's attic. Now hold still, this won't hurt long.